Alright guys, so welcome back to another Q&A, and this time around, as you can see, it's a Saw Q&A. As always, if you guys would like to send questions for the next Q&A, just hit the link below, head on over to my Patreon, where you guys can get the second tier. That's where I do all my Q&A preludes that allow people to ask questions for each Q&A, so yeah. And I thought it'd be kind of fun to do Saw since we're getting Saw X soon, so it just felt like the right thing to do, you know what I mean? So let's play a game. So yeah, so each person can ask up to 3 questions regarding the Saw franchise. We're starting off with David Deister, who asks, "What would a Gravity Falls Saw crossover look like?" I would say that a Saw Gravity Falls crossover would kind of look like. Okay, how I would do it is that someone. Like, how I would do it, actually, let me rephrase this. I think how I would do it is that Stan, a long time ago, a few years ago, actually, Stan conned John Kramer out of a lot of money that he was going to use for cancer treatment. But Stan conned him out of that money and took it for himself and fucked off to somewhere else. He was using a different alias, and now John has finally caught up to Stan and is now not only captured him, but has also captured the rest of the Gravity Falls family and put them in a bunch of traps, all because Stan took this money, and everything that happens is, you know, it's kind of like, I would have it like Saw 3, but much better. Instead of slow-ass motherfucking Jeff, it would be quick-thinking motherfucking Stan, who would have to, like, save each of his quote-unquote family. Not, he includes Seuss and Wendy in that group. So he has to save all of them from all these elaborate traps that Jigsaw has put together for them. So that's how I kind of do it right off the bat. So next up, David, so thank you for that question. David, moving on now to Tom Hibbert, who asked first of 3 questions. If you had to make a Saw anime, how would you do it? I think what I would do is actually set it in Japan, where I think what I would do is that the story is that there is it would be kind of like Spiral. That's what I'm kind of thinking, is that it would be something along the lines of Spiral and a little bit of Death Note mixed in, where in this story, a Jigsaw copycat killer has been going around Tokyo, Japan, killing Yakuza members, brutally murdering Yakuza members, and it would focus on these 2 detectives trying to figure out what this is. Now, with an anime, you would have way more, the ability to do way more elaborate traps and a lot more gore. So this would definitely dig into the horror roots, as well as talk about, like, the seedy underworld that the Japanese culture has. This would also be, like, instead of a pig, it would be like an Oni mask that this version of Jigsaw would have. And it would be, yeah, like a Japanese Go mask for theater. It would look like an Oni mask, but it would have the red and white coloration to it. So that's how that's like right out the gate, something like that, where it is kind of, it's more elaborate, and each of the traps also to these murders are all loosely based off of Japanese torture traps that were used, as well as, like, ancient spells, like the shall we say, the rope curse. If you want to, don't go looking for that. I would not recommend it. But if you know what it is, you're already going, ugh. So something like that, you know. So think of that question. Second question: if you had to make that was the first question. Second question: favorite Jigsaw trap. Favorite Jigsaw trap? Oh boy, my favorite Jigsaw trap. There's a few. I know a lot of people love the bear trap. I like it too, but it's a little overrated. Well, not overrated. I think that's just the bear trap is everyone's go-to for, you know, favorite Saw traps. Mine, however, is from Saw 4, or was it 5? I can't remember. It was like the Blood Eagle one, where it, like, ripped out the woman's sides and just had her organs dump out. I just love the just quick and you see it brutality of that murder. It was the opening murder to, I think, Saw 4, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I think it was Saw 4 that had that. But yeah. As for others, I would say the Saw the Saw 2 trap where the woman you had to stick your arms in the box and it's just razor blades. That makes my skin crawl every fucking time. Every time it makes my skin crawl. Ugh, I hate it, hate it, hate it. But I love it at the same time. Sorry, I lost myself for a second. Third question. Do you think Jigsaw would be a good villain for John Wick? It'd be kind of cool to see, like, John physically push himself through all of these traps. It would be a lot of fun to see that, like, how he could, like, physically and mentally push himself through all of those traps. But honestly, I would say, like, nah. Because the moment John finds him, he's just going to put a bullet in Kramer. So I would say not, but it would be fun to see him go through, like, a bunch of traps and put himself through all of that. So thank you for those questions, Tom. Moving on now to Jason Voorhees, who asks, first of two questions, if you could pitch either a movie or a Saw TV series unconnected to the main plot like Spiral was, what would you do about it? I would say, like, it's Spawn, like, almost said Spawn, Saw, like, something like Saw Incorporated, where you have, like, a cult of Saw who have, like, it's not just, like, one person who's now, like, who's now being, like, John's disciples. It would be that there is just people who are inspired by John and taking, and, you know, like, making, like, a cult. Like, it's it's Saw International, where it's people all over the world. This would be more of a TV series, and it would focus on people who are taking on the name of Jigsaw and taking the law into their own hands and punishing those. And I would have that some of them may be total geniuses, and then there are other people who, like, make these really horrible traps that don't work, and they even cause more pain than they should. So not everyone's like a genius like Saw. They just take on the name of Jigsaw. Something like that, you know? And your second question is, if John were a comic book villain, whose rogues gallery could you see him being a part of? Besides Batman, since that's way an easy answer. Yep, Batman is the easy... Like, everyone says, like, Jigsaw would totally work as a Batman villain. And they're not wrong. I would say, like, another person in the DC universe who would actually work just as well, I would say... The Question. Yeah, the Question would be perfect for him. Like, that weird, like, dark conspiracy that Saw has always been a part of. Yeah, Vic Sage would be an excellent opponent for him. On the Marvel side, Moon Knight. Moon Knight would probably be the right guy, because just Mark going through all those horrible trials, and he would just be like, did you ever hear what I did to Bushman? I'm about to do to you. So, there you go. Thank you for those questions, Jason. Moving on now to Cyborg 19.99, whose first of three questions is, how would you do a Saw Twisted Metal crossover? Oh, God, that is... Okay, I don't even know where to begin with that. A Saw Twisted Metal crossover. I would say, like, the best way to do that is that Jigsaw has captured... Man. God, I can't even think right now. I can't even think of how this would go. Yeah, I would say, like, he's captured Needles Kane. Maybe, yeah. Like, maybe John has captured Needles Kane and is trying to punish him for all of the horrible things and, like, you appreciate life by taking others, but what if someone took your life? Tonight we find out, or some shit like that. And it's just Needles just killing his way and like, just getting brutalized as he's making his way to Jigsaw. Something like that right out the back. The other way to do it is that maybe like John makes a deal with Calypso to cure his cancer, and but in order to do that, he has to be John. Like, John now has to be Calypso's, like, arena engineer. Like, he makes all these, like, super elaborate tracks for the Twisted Metal tournaments, and makes all these weird traps for them too. Something like that. I don't know. Second question. What anime could you cross over with Saw? Oh, wow. Black Lagoon would be fun. I think like John and encountering the characters from Roanapur would be fun. God, Higurashi would be a nightmare, wouldn't it? Like a Higurashi Saw crossover. That would just be nightmare fuel written all over it, wouldn't it? Just absolute carnage. Those are the really ones that strike out to me. I know there's probably an easier answer, but for right now, that's all I got. Anyway, so thank you for that question. Alright, yeah. So, if you could cross... Oh, third question, here we are. What other movies would you cross over with... What other movie would you cross over with Saw? Movie... 7. Just right out the gate, because it's already got 7 vibes, so why not? Anyway, thank you for those questions, Cyborg. Moving on now to Christopher Rosa, whose first of 3 questions is... If you made your own version of a Saw reboot, what would it be about? I would have it be a requel. I would have it be a requel to the original Saw. I would disregard the Saw movies. At least I would keep the first 3. Like, I would keep the first 3, but I would change what's that fucker's face? That fucker's name? The detective Hoffman. Yeah. Hoffman, I would get rid of. That would be only change. But I would have it that it would focus more, not on Amanda, because like Amanda, when she became a disciple, didn't feel strong enough to me. I mean, she's good, but it's kind of a tough act to follow with John Kramer. But I would have that John has eventually died of the cancer, and what has happened now is that there are now like a sect of people following John's example and making all of these traps in the name of Jigsaw, and they're killing like politicians, senators, government officials, and it's a movement that's like kind of like following like the online zeitgeist that we have going on now, and just kind of like talking about extremism, something like that. I've said that a lot. I've said something like that a lot, but that's real. For some reason, that just clicks in my brain. Thank you for that question. Second question: if John Kramer got superpowers, what power do you think he should get? All right, John Kramer with superpowers. I would say I would give John... Oh, I don't know. Maybe... I think I would give him, like, Forge's power. Like, Forge's ability is to make something out of anything, so I would give him the ability to, like, forge even more elaborate and more deadly traps. Like I said, like an evil version of Forge from X-Men. There you go. That's what I'd give him. Alright. Third question. If you made a Saw crossover with either Star Versus or Owl House, what would it be about? I have no idea, really. Like, I genuinely have no fucking clue what to do about that. Because they could just break out of the thing and just go get John or Hoffman or Amanda or whoever the fuck is who is Jigsaw this time around. Yeah. So I really don't know, honestly. But thank you for those questions, Christopher. Moving on now to Bill McLaughlin, who asks, who was the worst among Kramer's disciples? Hoffman. Hoffman just sucked. He was boring. At least with Amanda, there was like a bite to her. Like there was like this unpredictable nature to Amanda. There really was like this feeling of like you don't know what the fuck she's gonna do next. Hoffman, he was just this power-hungry asshole who only cared about power and not really about the message that John had. At least with Amanda, she kind of lost her way because she went nuts. Hoffman, like I said, Hoffman's just fucking boring and was all about power. But yeah. Anyway. So, second question. which comic city would Jigsaw thrive in? I mean, we can all agree it's Gotham, right? Like Jigsaw would just fit right in with in Gotham City, you know, making traps and driving Batman nuts, but also like Riddler nuts, because he'd be like, "Hey, I make the elaborate traps here that you have to think out of, not you, asshole." There you go. Third question. What are your thoughts on slow-ass motherfucking Jeff, the main character from Saw 3? Fucking awful. Like Saw 3 in itself is not a good movie. It's definitely one of the weakest of the Saw sequels, but holy shit does he make it worse. Just like, I hate you. Oh, wait, I'm gonna save you. Oh, I failed horribly. No. And rinse and fucking repeat the whole damn time. Ugh, I'm glad he died in the end of the movie. Or was it Saw 4? I don't fucking care. Anyway, moving right along. Thank you for those questions, Bill. Moving on now to Hunter Johnson, whose first question is, what do you think of the theory that Kevin McAllister's Jigsaw? I think that theory sucks. I really do. Because it's like, John Kramer. He's John Kramer. We know this. We've seen his whole fucking life. He's not Kevin McAllister. Yeah, and it's not even a joke. It's like people actually think that. I'm like, no. Who thought? What? What? It's just stupid. Anyway, second question. If you could cross over Ed, and Eddie with Saw, what would it look like? I think it would be like, it would be Saw Ed, or like Sawed, but would have Ed there, and like a typical episode. And how it would be is not a horror episode, but more like a parody of Saw, where the Eds find themselves in like the scene of the first movie, and Jigsaw like tells them they gotta, you know, to get the job, you know, you've all been stealing from, you've been conning people all of your lives. Well, now the con is on you, gentlemen. And then they'd have to go through all these elaborate, like, not so much traps, but more like just painful pranks. And at the end of it, it's revealed to be Jimmy was the quote-unquote Jigsaw of it. Kind of like that one episode where Jimmy conned them. It's not, like, that's how I do it, honestly. And your third question is, if Saw captured these characters, those being Ash, Hunter, Steven Universe, Sailor Mercury, Indiana Jones, Shipwreck, Billy Cranston, Dipper Pines, Marcy and Marco, Daryl Dixon from The Walking Dead, John Rambo and Stryker, Kim Possible, Ash Williams, Captain Rex, all four, like, yeah, they'd all survive. Like, you're literally giving me all of the people who would literally survive every trap you would see. Like half of them have superpowers, and the other half are really smart. Like, there's no way that these guys would fail any of these traps. Like, the only thing is, like, Jigsaw would go, I want to play a game. Oh, we already figured it out. Ah! And they all just kick his ass. Anyway. So, alright. There you go, guys. So, I want to thank everyone for sending in questions. Like I said, if you'd like to send in questions for the next Q&A, just hit the link below. Head on over to my Patreon, where you guys can start sending me requests for video. If you hit the third tier. The second tier is where you can get access to the next Q&A I post on there and start asking questions that I'll post here on YouTube. But, yeah. Once again, I'd like to thank everyone who sent me questions for this Q&A. Other than that, hope you all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.